Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, welcome to episode number 216 of the 31st Lap, coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls. Excited to be along with you. We're back. Again, we are on that alternating schedule back and forth with the Final Round podcast, dirt racing, circle track type stuff, coming to you tonight, drag racing on the opposite Thursdays from in and around Central New York. We got a couple phone guests lined up for next week on Final Round, but right now we're going to be talking oval track. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on Woodhull and Outlaw Speedways. The big news being released this week by our guest for the evening, Stephen Ovens, talking about the new surface being put down on Outlaw Speedway. It's the first time that the track has had a new surface in about 10 years. I remember the big deal when they put down fresh blue clay when Dean Hogue initially took over the track. I don't know if that was the year that he bought it or if it was the year before or year after, right in that time frame. But again, it's been about 10 years since new track surface was put down. And Stephen, as you alluded to in the press release that you put out for Outlaw Speedway, that the revolving door, so to say, has made it almost impossible for one of the new promoters that's worked there in the various situations that we've had folks in to make that jump and invest it. And now we've got $70,000 in new surface sitting on the track. It's changed the banking. There's already been some grounds improvements. It's one of those deals where I got to believe that the drivers are going to be excited about it. Most importantly, those Uke tires are out of the way.
Yeah, I think that's you've got drivers that are on one side of the fence or the other. They either love it because it's going to be a new surface, or they love it because the Uke tires are gone. And surprisingly, Chris, I think more people are excited about the Uke tires being gone than the track surface.
It's been a long, drawn out progression, but we had the turtles, and then we had the jersey barriers, which really changed the racing dynamic there. And then we got rid of some of that, went back to the turtles, went to the Uke tires, and now we've got that all opened up down in that inside line. And how long is it before this new clay doesn't matter and they're running on topsoil down inside 1 and 2?
Well, I mean, it's good. This whole new surfacing is really going to be interesting, I think, because they've added so much. They've added banking to both sets of corners, and for the longest time, the outside lane, hasn't necessarily been the preferred lane. Maybe on some nights when there was a real tall cushion on the outside, but I think those nights have been fewer and far between. In the last year or two, than certainly not being on a consistent basis. But I think with the new clay, the increased banking, I think that the outside lane is going to come back into prominence, and I think that is really going to shake things up as far as the racing goes. I mean, and I'm not saying that the racing's been bad, because honestly, the racing's been pretty good. They did the very best they could with the surface in 2016, and this fresh clay and all the pictures that we're seeing and the video that Mel Thomas shared around, it has no rocks in it. It's everything's been filtered through real nice, and they've packed it down obviously to get it ready for winter, and man, it really does look awesome out there.
We had the wood chip strategy a couple times, and there was always the lure of the blue clay down there. Now we've got this new surface on it. I talked with Steve Payne. He's pretty happy seeing the Uke tires are gone off the inside. I remember a couple times late last year where he was steering only with one side of the car because he'd made contact with it, and the car was just hucklebucking around the track, the front wheels flopping around loose, and he still ended up driving home. Second place to Alan Johnson, which helped him out a lot. But nonetheless, a lot of guys are going to be happy that those tires are out of the way, and I think it's going to open up a lot more of a forgiving racing surface, so to say, changing our attention from the forgiving side of it What's this do now? I mean, my mind is bouncing all over the place because usually when you see that new surface come down, especially early in the season, you're going to get a lot more bite off it with a steeper banking. You're going to be able to drive those corners a little bit harder. Do you want to go the way of running a small block or a small displacement big block, or go with the maximum of what you can get your hands on in terms of you can keep the momentum up now? It's not as it's going to tighten the track up. It's going to, because you're going to be going through the corners with so much more potential speed, but at the same time, you're going to be able to keep that momentum up too.
Yeah, and that's ever since we've had the modifieds there. That's been kind of the intriguing part of that class is trying to pick that perfect combination, and I don't think necessarily there's been one combination that's been better over the other, and certainly your track conditions are going to dictate that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think that you may see, though, with this new clay surface and how much clay they've put down, I think that you're going to tend to see, the conditions because of the surface have been, dusty on more occasions than it's not been dusty. But again, the surface really dictated a lot of that because, you can water it until the cows come home, but if there's not a lot of surface there to work with for that water to soak into, it's just not going to make a huge difference come feature time when you've got all these hard laps being put on the track. So I think, this new clay is going to make it a lot more consistent, and it will be interesting to see what guys choose because, yes, you can certainly go for the gusto with the big block power, but you're going to have an inside lane, you're going to have an outside lane, you're going to have a more consistent surface, and I think that after they get a few weeks in on it, you're going to have a surface that is not going to be prone to, rutting up like we saw the track do over the course of this year. There were some nights that were certainly rougher than others, but, again, they tried to mix in some clay where they could, where they felt it needed it the most. But, at the end of the day, that was really just kind of a Band-Aid trying to, fix what you could, where you could, until you could get to the off season and really make that investment to put all down that they did.
Fans, they were awful patient with it for a long time, and then a couple people got more and more vocal as the problems persisted. But again, it's been one of those things that's been sort of a back burner issue. Tyler, first thing when he got there, he went in and he did a bunch of the aesthetic stuff, which we've seen other promoters that have come through the existence of Dundee Raceway, Dundee Speedway, Black Rock Speedway, Yates County Speedway, and now Outlaw. They focus on that stuff because there was no guarantee of the long term, and to just turn around and throw $70,000 at something that you might never make another nickel off of after that year, people were gun shy of it. And that track surface, without saying it wrong, it was not so much neglected; it was sustained. I think is a better way of saying it. It was sustained for what it was, and nothing really able to be done with it. And they threw a couple tries at it this year in terms of putting new stuff down, but it's good to see that it's going to be done right. It's going to be done thoroughly. Over 300 loads of clay being dumped down on the track is a lot, and that's going to go a long way. I am excited about the new surface, and I got to believe that some of these four-cylinder guys that are making some pretty serious power are going to be liking the prospects of the steeper banking in the corners, because that means that they're going to be able to carry a little bit more momentum through there too and stay up in the power band a little bit more effectively. Yeah,
definitely, and I can draw from my own personal experience with that. And the last time we were racing the four cylinders was a little more than 10 years ago. But the thing that I remember, from back in that time racing them is there was always a great outside lane. I loved the outside lane. When I was running the Bandit class, that was where I could really be confident and make a lot of passes. And so for the four-cylinder guys, certainly I think that is going to really benefit them because that outside lane is going to come back. And the other interesting wrinkle with the four-cylinders at Outlaw 2 is they run the rear-wheel drive Mustangs together with the front-wheel drives. And, they're really Rich Sharpstein has really been working with the tech team a lot more and working with Tyler, trying to come up with a package that will make those front-wheel drive cars competitive. And something that I think will help is the new surface. I think that is going to, aid those front-wheel drive cars a little bit more, along with some of the things that they're doing with the rules package to, try and make it an even playing field. There's not, I would say that there's, probably a majority of the four-cylinders that are still rear-wheel drive Mustang-type cars.
Right.
But there's still enough of the front-wheel drives that you really, got to try and do what you can to try and even that playing field and not discourage them from wanting to come out and race weekly, or have guys come in and invade from other places as well.
They've got a voice. There's certainly there's power in numbers, so we'll see how loud those numbers are, and if this actually comes to pass, that is going to be something of benefit to them. I can see where that is a potential reality. Again, playing on the same card as that momentum theory, you're looking at some of the crate engine cars that are powered over there, the Sportsman division. They got to be pretty excited about this. Also, getting those Uke tires out of the infield, out of the way, is going to give them a couple more options. And also, some of those guys that aren't as experienced might have the opportunity of racing on a line that's a little bit more forgiving. But more to the national appeal, or at least the greater regional appeal, this banking is going to do some fun things for those 360 sprint cars when they make their stops.
Yeah, definitely. They've got 6 360 shows planned for 2017. They've got a 410 date for the Arctic Cat All-Star 410 All-Star Series coming in as well. And with there not having been a 410 race there before, I think that is going to be absolutely awesome. Outlaw is such a great 360 track as it is. To see the power of the 410s and the talent level that's going to come in with that series really should be a lot of fun. And with those other 6 360 shows, including the return of the 2-day an event that used to be called the Bully Hill Vineyard Fall Nationals, that's coming back in 2017. They're putting the plans together for that already. And, this new surface is really... the racing was great in 2016 with the sprint cars, and, I think we saw the potential of what that, we were talking about that outside lane coming back. Chuck Heaving certainly showed us the potential of what could happen when there's an outside lane on that racetrack with the sprint cars, and those shows should be, that should really take it back to, how things used to be back in the day when it was standing room only for those sprint car shows in Dundee. And I think this new surface is going to, do big things for them to be able to, bring the track back to where things used to be on that front.
Remember when Scott Bonnell won it was his turn to win the Bully Hill? And he ran with the Patriot Sprint Tour. That was a good show. That was a good time. He got out in front and ran away, but behind him, man, it was an awesome race to watch.
No, definitely. I think a opportunity for it to get back to how it used to be.
Lost my train of thought there. The 360s. There were some pictures that were shared around of a new 360 car that might be in action at Outlaw. Any likelihood that we can get some details on how that's going to come together?
Yeah. So after the press release went out about the track surface and everything, I got a text message from Tyler Seary, and it was a 360 sprint car with Outlaw Speedway and Superior Crushing decorated on it, and got some details on that. And Tyler's going to be driving a 360 sprint in 2017 for those 6 360 shows at minimum. If they decide they want to do a little more, and I'm sure there won't be anything stopping them from doing that. But so those definitely the Outlaw 360 shows. He'll be driving a 360 sprint. Now that's cool in and of itself, but the other cool part about it, and I know that there's a lot of folks that listen into your program, Chris, that are fans of sprint car drivers from, all through the years. Malcolm Lane, ESS Hall of Famer Malcolm Lane, is going to be wrenching on the Outlaw Speedway sprint car for Tyler Seary. He's going to be wrenching on the car and maintaining it, and I think it's actually going to be housed at Malcolm's garage, where they're already busy working on that USAC car for this year. But he's teamed up with Tyler as far as technical help and driver coaching, and when you're new to a sprint car and you need a good place to get some laps, certainly helps when you own a dirt track.
Right.
So they're going to be working on that in the springtime before they kick things off for 2017.
Tyler's going to be busy between running the track, running the crushing company. Now he's got the sprint car to keep up with. He's got Jordan's modifieds. He's going to have his hands full.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's going to be a lot of hats to wear. But I think he proved this year he's up to the task. And he's a guy that he loves to get out there and go fast. I mean, you watch him in that modified, and I mean he's a gas man, no doubt about it. So I think he gets a couple of practice sessions with that car. I think he is going to adapt to that pretty well. We've seen modified drivers adapt pretty well and have some success. So it's going to be exciting to watch. There's no doubt about that.
It's getting to be a longer and longer list of modified drivers who have adapted well. You look at Steve Poirier, Chuck Hebing, just to get started, Jason Barney, and then behind them you've got Mahaney. Danny Varen's done good things. Larry White, Stu Friesen, he's got a win with the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series. And those guys, they found their transition. Brian McDonald, he's a guy that did pretty well in a sprint car for himself. There's been plenty of precedent to be optimistic for success with that combination. Mal Lane putting together the USAC team. They're still in the hunt for a driver, but I mean that was one of those to-do list things for Malcolm, and you're fortunate enough that he was willing to come and talk about it, break that news for public ears on Turn 5 with you guys. That's got to be just so cool to be part of that.
Yeah, definitely. That was, we had him on the program and talking about that, and kind of the, why he wanted to do that, and the cool thing to me, Chris, is he, it wasn't a, we're going to buy a USAC car and we're going to start going to races. This has been kind of a multi-year plan that they've had in place. I mean, he went out to as many USAC dirt races as he could this past year, doing research, trying to figure out what combination they're going to need, because anybody that knows Malcolm knows that everything is going to be A1 top notch, and they're not going to just go to compete. They're going to go to compete and win the dang race. So,
right.
It's been quite a process. It wasn't just we're just going to buy a car off the street and take it and run. It was fun to talk to him about that, and I although they haven't announced the driver yet, I know that he had some names in mind that were already driving for teams this year, and so they were just waiting to get through the end of the year and kind of let some of the silly season driver swaps and all that stuff kind of unfold, and then they'll get that driver in place.
Silly season already in full swing down at your new home over there at Woodhull Raceway. You got to hang out in Painted Post when all the awards and everything were given out. 18th time Billy Van Pelt was crowned the champion of the 370 modified division there. Third in a row, and last one for Grant Hilfiger Racing. Hilfiger's backing down in 2017, and now he's going to go drive for Kevin Chilson. And that was a team that was together prior, a good combination there for Billy Van Pelt. You got to be excited for the upcoming season down there at Woodhull.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we were prior to Kevin Chilson going and talking to Billy Van Pelt, we were potentially looking at Billy Van Pelt's retirement. He and I learned an interesting stat the other night at the banquet is in talking to his brother Tony. Billy has been so fortunate in his driving career that Billy has never owned a car himself. He started out racing modifieds for his dad, and a family-owned, family-run team. But with the amount of success that he's had over the years, he's always been fortunate that he's had good car owners that they've gone out and won races and won championships. And when Grant came to him early in the season and said, this is going to be our last year together, Billy told me on Saturday night that he thought that was going to be it. And Billy went to a couple of his sponsors just to let everybody know what was going on, and of course one of those sponsors was Kevin Chilson with Instant Heat wood pellets, and Kevin said, no, you're not done. You're coming to race for me. So Billy was back in a ride, and we he was able to get the word out about that before the season was over. And it's funny, I think after that announcement came out, probably some of the modified contingent at Woodhull said, oh man, we almost got rid of this guy, because he's just so good down there. And it's 18 championships over his career. It's been an incredible run for him down there, and he's going to have a lot of the same. The beauty in talking to him Saturday night, Billy said that the beauty of his new deal is the fact that Kevin's allowing Billy to do what he needs or wants to do with the car.
Right.
As far as chassis, obviously it was going to be a Bicknell, but as far as it's going to be standard rack, split rack, the engines. Kevin has given him the resources and letting him, kind of control how his car is set up, and that's probably not great news for the competition at Woodhull, because he is going to be driving in stuff that he's comfortable with, that he's got some great setups for, and he said, I interviewed him Saturday night after the banquet was over, and I asked him, for a guy that's got 18 championships, what more do you have to prove? What's still left on the list to cross off? And I asked him, I said, is 20 wins something that you want to accomplish? Would it mean anything to you to accomplish that? And to my surprise, he said yes. He wants to win 20 so bad he can taste it. And, now that he's got 18, 20 is certainly in reach. And he also, talked about the fact that, I also asked him, do you have a number of years that you still want to do this? Once you get to a certain point, are you going to want to call it quits? And he said, I want to get to 20 championships, and I'll keep racing as long as, these great car owners will keep having me. So, those two things put together, Chris, I think, we're going to continue to see a lot of that success for Billy Van Pelt.
If 20 happens fast, he'll target 25.
Yeah.
I mean, there's. Can you imagine? Imagine that you're a sponsor, or not even a sponsor. Imagine you're a car owner down there in Woodhull area, and they drive pretty well. So I mean, it's a wide driver base, or wide team base anyway. And you find out, on one hand, you could be getting rid of Billy Van Pelt forever. You don't have to deal with him anymore. He's gone. The point that you made. On the flip side, you find out Billy Van Pelt's a free agent. I can get him in my car, and I know I've got a shot at the championship. That my odds of a championship just went up exponentially. And no sooner do you find out he's a free agent, you find out he's got another ride, and it's just like completely defeated. It's like so close to getting rid of him, so close to having him, and neither one of them played out.
And he said he had a lot of phone calls, as I'm sure was expected.
Yeah.
And I think in a perfect world, he would have liked to been able to kind of announce both of those things at the same time, but unfortunately, there was a period of time there where, that wasn't necessarily going to happen, but when it was finally, everything was all good and they were able to get that out there, it was, it was it was kind of a small window when all that took place. So, but yeah, I mean, he certainly had a lot of phone calls. Whether it was teams that compete there at Woodhull or Southern Tier teams that were willing to be a weekly competitor at Woodhull, and really that's how him and Grant got together. Was Billy was in the off season. He was at about this time of the year that he didn't even have a ride. He wasn't sure what was going to happen, and him and Grant Hilfiger got together, and they live about 4 hours apart, which made things difficult. As far as where they were keeping the cars, and getting down to Grant's shop to work on them, and finally they got it to where Billy had the cars at his shop maintaining them, and Grant would come up this way. But 4 hours, that's quite a drive to come out and compete and participate in a hobby like that. So they had 3 great years together, and I don't think Grant is completely getting out of racing, but certainly out of the weekly program and chasing championships.
Is the Chilson program going to move around a little bit too? Are they going to go some of the other tracks? Or are they just going to focus on at this point, are they just going to focus on Woodhull?
Night, their main focus is going to be Woodhull. They may venture out a little bit, and that's typical for Billy for the last couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
You might see him, I'm going to say probably no more than a handful of times. Maybe you'll see him at Outlaw. I think the tricky part for them, with Outlaw in particular, that would be about probably the closest place they could go to on a Friday night. I think Freedom would be further out yet, but either of those places, Friday afternoon, getting out of work, getting in the car, getting to the track, it's tough for some of those teams that are down there in northern PA. So,
Sure.
You might see him there probably a handful of times, some of the big money shows, maybe the Super Dirt Car Series race, pull the sail panels off type of thing. But, I think their main focus is going to be trying to get championship number 19.
And he's got a great shot at it. So we'll keep our finger on the pulse as the 2017 season comes together for Billy Van Pelt and Kevin Chilson Racing at Woodhull. Donnie Lawson picked up the Sportsmanship Award. They've been a huge contributor down there. Boyd McTavish winning the Rookie of the Year award for 2016. The Harrington family is going to work with McTavish again in 2017. Dust to Glory Award. I love the name of that award, too. Mike Bills, he got that for a breakout year. Chris Doherty won the Crate Sportsman Championship. He was pretty dominant in that one. Josh Kesey, he was second place and earned the Sportsmanship Award. Bruce Miller won the 360 Late Model Division Track Championship, and that's the end of an era for that one. The 604 Crate Late Models moving in over there at Woodhull Raceway, and Kurt Stebbins he's an owner of one of those. So how's the 604 being received at this point?
Well, it's been received pretty well so far. I think I'll be honest and say that I don't think that the expectation is that we're going to make this change and it's instantly going to be a rising success. This is going to be something that might be a 2 or 3 year process to evaluate and see if this is something that will stick long term. I know there's guys that are already transitioning out of the 360 and picking up a crate. The tricky part about it is and I think Outlaw Speedway is seeing the same thing. This part of the Northeast is not necessarily late model country.
No. No, we saw the 604 struggle a little bit at Canandaigua Motorsports Park, but then we saw them have success at some of the other tracks. Fulton Speedway had a decent crate late model program through the course of the year. So it's not that they can't survive. Gary Montgomery had the BRP Can-Am 360 series that went all over the place for a long time, and Genesee Speedway had a couple great drivers come out of it.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely pockets where it works really well. You mentioned one of them being Fulton, and then out in the Batavia area with Genesee Speedway, they seem to do well with their late model program, and so much that they have not only the crate late models, but they also have 360 late models too. So there's pockets, and so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with that class. See what the numbers are. The 360 division was getting down to, there was a few nights where if not all the competitors were there, you're looking at 8 or 10 cars.
Right.
And so, at that point, you're looking to, make a change, see if it sticks. It's not going to be a Rush sanctioned track, but we are going to follow Rush rules. So it will be very easy for guys that follow the Rush Tour to come into Woodhull and race. And so I think what you may see is throughout the season, you're going to see some nights where the numbers are really good, and you might see some nights where the numbers are down a little bit. But what this gives an opportunity is, like I said, those guys that follow the tour, they can come in, they can race, they know they don't have to change things over. There was rumors going around about the crate late models at Woodhull being on American Racers, and, to do that would be so difficult for the teams, because then they would have to stock American Racers along with their Rush Hoosiers, and, that just wouldn't have, that would have taken a class that you're trying to build on and make it that much more difficult for guys to come in and, invade, even if on a part-time basis. So we're following the Rush rules. They'll be on Hoosier tires, and, we'll see what happens. I know there's guys, Kurt Stebbins has got one already. There's talks of, potentially, seeing some of the Wonderling boys come back, maybe Bryce Davis that's local. We'll see what happens. There's guys that, haven't raced in a few years that with the crate late model class coming in have shown some interest. So, like I said, I think that's going to be a 2 or 3 year evaluation process, but got to start somewhere.
You nail it right there. If you don't take a shot at it, you'll never know if it didn't work.
Yep.
Kurt Stebbins, he got the Street Stock Division Championship. It was his first. Dan Gardner, Street Stock runner-up and Rookie of the Year. Brandon Morsman winning the Sportsmanship Award. Chris Werder earned his first track title in the Mini Stock Division. And Jeff Doherty, he picked up a win and a top 5 finish in points. He got Rookie of the Year honors. Brian Corky Grant Sr. won the Mini Stock Sportsmanship Award. Sean Gleason, it was his first track championship in the front-wheel drive division. And let's see, lost track of it. Dave Richmond got Rookie of the Year honors there. Cody Baker taking home the Sportsmanship Award. And Nate Freeland winning a track title for the Quad C. That was the challenge races, front-wheel drive and front-wheel drive mini stocks. He won 50% of them through 2016. AJ Piotrowski won his first track championship in the youth four-cylinder division there. Arnott Mall Car Show, that's right around the corner. I know it seems funny to say that it's the 15th of December, but it is realistically only about 2 months away.
Yeah.
If you can believe that.
Yeah, that's coming up, and it's going to be St. Patrick's Day weekend, so that should make for quite a party out there at Ruby Tuesdays after we move all the cars in that night. So that should be a lot of fun. We move the cars in on Friday night, and then we have the car show all day Saturday and Sunday. So that'll be St. Patrick's Day weekend down here in Horsehead. So it should be a lot of fun. Last year we brought the pit stop competition back, and had about a handful of teams participate in that, but we had a lot of people that didn't sign up to participate that were standing there watching, and so we're looking to expand that program. That was a lot of fun. You had teams of 3 changing the right rear tire on Van Pelt's car there in center court, and even more so than just the race people that are there watching it. You're right there in center court on Saturday evening. You've got all the folks coming in, whether they're going up to the movie theater or they're at the food court, or just out shopping. That exposure to auto racing and doing the live pit stop competition was a lot of fun, and I think we'll just expand upon that this year.
That's awesome. A couple other special awards. Mike Jackson getting the dedication to motorsports for all the time that he served Woodhull as a lead tech. Tom Newell getting the Perseverance Award for all of his work there and his continued contributions to the management team. And the most prolific award given out at that banquet, Stephen Evans awarded the Woodhull Raceway Media Award for contributions to Woodhull, as well as the coverage of the Speedway through Race Chaser Online and Turn 5 Live. That must have felt pretty cool to be recognized for your work at all these different tracks with Race Chaser, and then the coverage on Turn 5 Live, the podcast that you guys have out there on the Performance Motorsports Network. That was you've been doing it a long time, man. That was well deserved.
Well, I appreciate that. That was certainly a surprise. And they did a pretty good job of keeping that a surprise, because when you're the guy doing all the speaking for the banquet, that was something that wasn't on my itinerary. Didn't exactly know that was coming, but definitely appreciate it. I've had so much fun at Woodhull this year that when I decided I wanted to cut back and just stick with one place, I decided to stick things out with Woodhull, and it kind of felt just like the racers, trying to make the mad dash home from work and get changed and go to the racetracks on a Friday. It just we created some chaotic weekends, and then coming home and doing results and a PR, and then as soon as that's all done, headed right back to the racetrack on Saturday. So kind of looking forward to just cutting back to one night a week this year, and glad that the Woodhull will be that place. And it was quite an honor, and it is nice to know that all of these avenues that are covering the local motorsports, whether it's our show or your show here, Chris. There's enough outlets that we can still get the word out about what's happening at all the dirt tracks. So that was definitely cool.
This late in 2016, we've still got racing action that's happening. The Battle of Trenton TQ Indoor Midget Feature being held, and Eric Rudolph coming away with the win in that 40-lapper. Ryan Flores, Jimmy Blewett running in the top three. Zane Ziner and Scott Kruder filling in the top five. Anthony Reisner topping Kurt Bettler and Seth Spade in the 20-lap slingshot feature. And Fulton, we talked about Fulton a moment ago. They released a co-press release with Brewerton Speedway about some of their upcoming dates. I don't know if you've had a chance to peruse that, but it's going to be a busy year over there in Brewerton and Fulton Speedways. The Outlaw 200 weekend, they've set that one for the September 29th and September 30th weekend. The Super Dirt Car Series is going to be at Fulton Speedway with the High Bank Holdup, which they've scheduled for the last weekend in April, Saturday, April the 29th. Brewerton Speedway is going to have an event on September 15th. It's the third annual edition of that one, when the Super Dirt Car Series comes into town. The Hurricane 100 is going to be back again. That's going to be on a Thursday night, October the 5th. It's going to be insane over there. World of Outlaws are going to be back at Fulton Speedway on Saturday the 7th. The 360 Sprint Cars are going to have a total of 6 dates between the two venues. Lucas Oil Empire Super Sprints are going to be at Fulton Speedway 3 times. That's April the 28th as part of the High Bank Holdup weekend. ESS Speed Week on the 1st of July, and then they've added a date on the 2nd of September. The Patriot Sprints are going to be there June 4th. At Brewerton, ESS is going to be there a couple times. They're going to do a part of the ESS Speed Week again, which we kind of figured that was going to happen on Friday, June the 30th, and the series is going to be part of the Labor Day program on Friday, September the 1st. So again, just a quick recap. High Bank Holdup weekend at Fulton, April 28th and 29th. The Outlaw 200 weekend is going to be September 29th and 30th. ESS and the Modifieds running together, April the 28th, July the 1st and September the 2nd. Patriot Sprints and the Big Blocks running together on June the 3rd at Brewerton Speedway. Duel at the Demon is going to be Friday, September 15th. The Hurricane 100 is going to be October the 5th. ESS and the Sprints run together on June 30th and September the 1st. And before we even turn a lap, Fulton Speedway and Brewerton are going to be hosting their annual Winter Blast and the Dirt Car Nationals Final Night Viewing Party, February the 25th at RFH's Hideaway, which is just south of the Speedway on Route 57. Point money, trophies, all that stuff's going to be handed out. They got a buffet dinner planned. Dress is casual and free to attend, so anybody can find out more about that. BrewertonSpeedway.com, FultonSpeedway.com. Jump online, check them out, check their social media pages. We talked about Woodhull Raceway, Woodhull. They've got a very, very active Facebook page. You know anything about that Facebook page for Woodhull Raceway, or does somebody else take care of that?
No, I manage that for them. We've been putting some things out the last couple of days. Yesterday we announced that we're going to be having a fantasy racing league there for Woodhull next year. Something that we tried at Outlaw this year that I thought went well. We just advertised it a little late to get a good number of teams involved, but I think it's something that we announced yesterday, and I think we've given it enough time to get some teams signed up, and we'll sign teams up at the mall. So we'll be doing that next year to have a little fun, let the fans kind of be a little more interactive with the show, and not necessarily the driver that they're coming out and rooting for, but paying attention to what's going on in all the classes. So that'll be fun. And tonight, actually this afternoon, we announced on there that we're going to have 3 dates of Power Wheels races for the kids.
Awesome.
So that'll be a lot of fun, and it's fun to watch the comments and the folks that are sharing that this afternoon. We've already got some teams on here talking strategy about how to get a little more extra speed out of that Power Wheels car.
We've in our travels, we come across a company that is up near, it's up in Minnesota near the city of Wadena. And basically they buy up Power Wheels from all over the country. It's like a Power Wheel scrapyard. But they've also got outlets both domestically and overseas where you can get hopped up aftermarket parts. So it's like the Jegs or J.C. Whitney of Power Wheels. So you can get different motors, different batteries. They even have a conversion kit so that you can extend the chassis of some of them, like the Wrangler and the Escalade and I think the fire truck, so that an adult can fit in it. And they've got retrofitted combinations so that you can put lawnmower batteries in them and these different tires. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the company, but we came across it with Crash Course Podcast because of all the folks that were doing the demolition derbies with the Power Wheels and letting the kids run and bounce around, bang around a little bit. And then that evolved to where they were putting balloons on the front and rear bumpers and the right and left side doors. And if you lost all your balloons, you were eliminated. If you still had 2 balloons running, or they ran it down so there was only so many people left with so many balloons. And if you had 2 balloons left, you could add 2 balloons. If you only had 1 balloon left, you could only add 1. So you actually had to do some repairs and strategize for going to the feature. But this company was insane. So I put the word around, do a little bit of search, and I'm sure you can come across them, and you'll see all sorts of insane Power Wheels coming out for those events at Woodhull.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to ask you one more. I was looking at the calendar. They've got Fulton Speedway Winter Blast. Fulton and Brewerton teaming up on the 25th of February. From there, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th is Finger Lake Speed World in Auburn Mall. Then the week after that, I think there's almost a race the week after that. Then I think the 17th, 18th, 19th, that's your weekend. And then the end of the month is, I think there's going to be another car show, but I can't think of which one it is. I mean, the month of March is already full with racing from the first week, for the last weekend of February, straight through the beginning of April, and then we're only 4 weeks away from the Big Block Series opener here in New York at Fulton Speedway with a high bank holdup.
Yeah, I mean we're what a month of races off from being on a NASCAR schedule.
Yeah, true. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, we're not far away from that one either. You gonna go to the Finger Lake Speed World show?
Yeah, that was part of the plan, is to try and get some materials and stuff like that up for that show with Woodhull, and I'm sure that we'll come up, and if you guys have anything going on up there, we'd love to stop by and chat with you on that too. So yeah, definitely.
When I was talking with Jim Olin, he had his fingers crossed that Turn 5 was going to come up and do something live from either the Woodhull booth or the Outlaw booth or just on their own. So it's something that he's...
definitely. That's kind of what we've done with some of our banquet shows is come out and do a live record and save it for our Tuesday night show. So yeah, no, that would definitely be a lot of fun. And Saturday I did the Woodhull banquet show by myself, and still a good time. I mean, we talked to a few drivers that we haven't had on the show before, and there was even stuff that even as the PR and the announcer at the track, there was things happening on championship night in some of those classes that were so close that I hadn't even heard about yet, and so that was really interesting. One of the mini stock drivers, just real quick, one of the mini stock drivers, as they were lining up to go out for their feature, now mind you, the point race was down to like 2 points in that class.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever finished ahead of the other was going to win. And as they're getting the car ready to go put it on the lineup, they stripped out one of the bolts on the bowl for the fuel. So they had to repair it, tap it, get it back on there. They almost had to throw the spare carburetor on because they didn't know how bad it was, but they ended up getting it fixed, and that car ended up going out and winning the race and winning the championship.
Wow.
But it's stories like that there was so much going on in Victory Lane, they didn't even mention that, but at the banquet show, we got an opportunity to sit down for 20 minutes or so and got to hear that story, so it was kind of cool.
That is awesome. Well, I can't believe it. We've talked for 45 minutes. I told you earlier when we were setting this thing up, it was only going to be, a quick one, in and out, hit a couple topics between Outlaw and Woodhull, and 45 minutes has passed.
Yeah, man, it was a good time as always, and I appreciate the time to talk about all that stuff, and I guess without further ado, I'm going to sneak back off here to date night, so...
Man, you get back to it. I'll catch up with you soon. Appreciate the time. Look forward to seeing you here as we go through the winter.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so much for the time.
You bet, dude. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
There goes Stephen Ovens working at Woodhull Raceway coming up through the course of 2017. You got a couple fun things planned when you look at what they're doing with Arnott Mall and their 2017 season schedule over there. So appreciate him coming on. Looking forward to catching up with him. And good to hear that they're making the trip up to the Finger Lakes Speed World show at Finger Lakes Mall in Auburn. We'll be having Jim Olin on the show here in a couple weeks when we're back on the air to talk a little bit more about that and how it's coming together and what the game plan is. That is probably going to do it for episode number 216 here of the 31st lap. Coming to you live from FingerLakes1.com studios. We are off next week. Final Round podcast is going to be taking the spot, talking about the guys going in straight line, and then in 2 weeks, barring anything unforeseen, I think in 2 weeks we're not. We've got something set up on the 29th, so we're not going to be in town. So it's going to be a little bit before 31st lap is back on, but looking forward to being back on, and we'll probably be having Jim Olin on in that installment. Appreciate everybody tuning in and listening to us. That's going to do it for this edition of the 31st lap, 216 in the books. Here from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls. Appreciate you being with us. We will see you again next time. Stay tuned to Facebook. We'll let you know when we're on. That's going to do it. See you later.